Ahead of the 2024 election, some companies have become so concerned about brand safety that they're now using AI to predict whether or not an influencer is likely to post about politics. Marketing agencies are providing advertisers with these new tools that grade the brand safety of social media personalities. But how does it even work? Well, a tool recently introduced by Captivate, a marketing firm that helps advertisers like Walmart and Kraft Heinz connect with influencers, uses AI to analyze mentions of social media stars in online articles and then determines whether they are likely to discuss elections or political hot topics. The firm also assigns letter grades to creators based on their posts, comments, and media coverage, where an A means very safe and a C signals caution. The grades incorporate categories like sensitive social issues, death and war, hate speech, or explicit content. The software uses Simone Biles as an example. You can see here that she received an A overall. Good for Simone. Viral Nation, another influencer
she could use a
agency.
win.
Yeah, life's been tough for her. Viral Nation, another influencer agency, also offers marketers a product that makes risk profiles for creators. The tool, which the company has been using for more than a year, assesses years of posts, including hours of dialogue from videos, and can detect whether people are holding weapons or protest signs in their content, even if those elements aren't mentioned in the captions or audio. The founder of Captivate says brands have become more and more interested in this. Brands are definitely asking for this. We noticed from the election before, people wanted to know, have creators talked about the election and talked about the president? Because they don't want to be in that conversation. I compare it to a background check, said Nicholas Spiro, the chief product officer at Viral Nation. A lot of this is done with things like keywords. You can go in and set your keywords so it can detect if there is content discussing Joe Biden, for example, if that's something you care about. Now, the creator economy is projected to reach $480 billion by 2027, nearly double the figure from last year. As more time goes on, the more history people have online, the more information you need to evaluate in terms of the content they put out, said Tyler Vaught, the head of influencer marketing at Edelman, the public relations giant, which is enthusiastic about Captivate's software. John, you and I were just talking about AI earlier. It is interesting in some aspects, but here I'm curious what you think about them using it to shut out political influencers in general who may have also at one time or could potentially talk about politics.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they chose one example, and it's Simone Biles, who obviously, I love and adore, and it's totally safe. Well, remember, just a couple days ago, she tweeted a clear reference to Donald Trump and his Black Jobs thing. So I don't know, maybe she will get political at some point. I still hold out hope for her at the DNC. But anyway, for the larger thing of them using AI to do this, it doesn't really feel that distinct from what I'm sure is done before they do one of these deals now. It's maybe more automated. It might be a bit quicker, maybe more all-encompassing than the sort of due diligence that I'm sure these companies are doing into influencers anyway. I think that if you're gonna have a problem with this, I would have a problem with the goal that brands have to only advertise with people who don't stand for anything significant, rather than the fact that they're using AI to do it. Because I'm sure they're looking into people's past, they're definitely searching people's Twitter anyway. The fact that they can look through hours and hours of video, that's theoretically, more all-encompassing again, like I said. But this doesn't feel super new, really. And I'm also not super surprised coming out of the last couple of years where the right, after talking about being against cancel culture and everything, instituted massive, seemingly random boycotts against Bud Light and Target and anything else you can think of. So I don't find it super surprising. It feels like I would expect that they'd be doing this.
Yeah, I guess the motive isn't surprising. The technology use might not be either. The practice overall, I can't stand. I think it's really frustrating. And of course, these companies are totally risk averse and they're all cowardice and only worried about the bottom line because they want to appeal to everybody, right? That's why Bud Light immediately was like, okay, yeah, we're sorry. We'll never send a beer can to a trans person ever again. Like, it's just ridiculous. Who cares? And the people who want to exploit that, like if someone also happened to express a political opinion, if someone doesn't like a deeply unpopular president, it's your right as an American. If you don't like Trump, if you don't like Biden, I don't care. I don't think you shouldn't have. If that's your job, if that's what you do, that's what you do for work, who cares? If they're doing something vile, if they're, cheering on the war in Gaza, okay, yeah, I could see it then. If you're hate speech, same thing. If you're openly racist, yeah, obviously. But the idea that they don't want any political history whatsoever, you get this purely like sanitized brand of influencer who just wants to make money. And I don't know how viable of a long-term strategy that is, because the benefit of having influencers do your marketing is their authenticity. Really, you're just getting like people at home to make commercials for you in this case. Okay, I mean, I don't see how convincing that is. If you have an influencer who engages with their audience, is very clear they're authentic, and present themselves in a realistic way, then they incorporate a product placement, I think that's going to go a lot farther. The other thing is, from an organizational perspective, that's a huge window and a new strategy for progressive groups. I was at a conference earlier this year in DC with a bunch of creators who are not explicitly political, but who want to be. They would love to collaborate with organizations on political issues. So they're also jeopardizing their future prospects with bigger brand deals that they also get and pay more, of course, but they care about these issues, so they're willing to do it at a much lower rate if it's coming from a grassroots organization. You're putting them in an impossible spot, because then they can never talk about anything that matters just so they can guarantee those bigger contracts, which I think is just totally reckless.
Yeah, I think that everything you said is right. It's going to be sanitized and kind of boring, and probably is not going to maximize. It's really about risk minimization more than like maximizing the value of the like they could theoretically have someone that people feel more passionately about because they actually talk about things that matter. But I think they're worried that like they do that 10 times and one time it turns out that somebody said something about 9/11 or something and it ruins the company. I think they just don't want that to happen. And so it will be bland, and it will, it'll encourage people to never talk about anything of substance if they want to, make a career of it. I think that, I don't know, it's the effect of capitalism on something that should be substantive and should be focused on free speech. It's bland and boring, and it is only about making money.
Yeah, I don't feel great about it overall. I hate the approach. I hate the strategy. The use of AI feels very weird. I don't know if you probably didn't, because you already tutted nonfiction, but that book, Your Face Belongs to Us by Kashmir Hill, earlier this year, about Clearview AI and their facial recognition database they've been building with like Peter Thiel money, is absolutely horrifying. So I wouldn't be surprised if they also have elements of that in this too. It's not just your posts. It's anything you've ever done in your entire life that has been documented anywhere online. And even if those posts are removed, it's in their database. That stuff is horrifying. So if you even attended a protest, didn't post it on social media, that could find it.
Yeah, I find that stuff to be a little bit scarier, I think, because it'll affect far more people. But yeah, it's look, we're entering, theoretically a really dark time, and a lot of people are super excited about what AI can do for them. I think that AI will do some stuff for some people. I think it's generally going to be people who already have a lot of money and already have a lot of power that are going to be used it in the ways that are most beneficial to them.
Yeah, but it is scary. I am relieved though that Congress is filled with a bunch of young, tech-savvy people who put people's interests before the interests of their donors. So if there's anybody who can tackle this issue, rein it in, and govern responsibly, it is the United States Congress. So it's going to be okay. What?